AIDA has really been the sounding board for some of the experiences that people feel during medical school and when they walk into a profession that is really isolating at times.
AIDA is incredibly important personally and professionally because it's a safe space and it's a space where we can just be us.
AIDA is really important in terms of having a network of peers, professional peers all around the country, but being able to meet collectively in different ways, in virtual ways, and other connected ways, even though we might be geographically very distant.
Lewis Peachey in particular had always talked about a desire to create a collegiate network. He wanted there to be a way that we could connect on a regular basis, such that for our graduates, we knew that we could come together in support of one another, because it's a tough environment. At university, I was told that I didn't deserve to be there, that I was taking up, the place of a good white student.
When I was at medical school, there was nobody from our culture there who could give us guidance and help and understanding. That although the faculty was loaded with really beautiful, genuine, caring people, they just still saw the world differently from the way that a lot of us saw it.
The kind of genesis was provided by a medical student conference we held at Salamander Bay, and that was hosted by Newcastle University.
We're having this meeting at Salamander Bay, and then it's obvious that the idea wasn't wrong, it was just too small. It didn't need to be a Newcastle alumni, it needed to be a national alumni. We needed to have some sort of a structure, some sort of an organisation that we could start looking after the people coming behind us.
And one of the things that really was striking in walking that room was these were all my celebrities, my heroes, my academic mentors who I just admired, and walk into a room seeing people like Lewis Peachey, Sandra Eads, Nye Brown, Mark Wenatong.
The work that Gail Garvey in particular, when she was at Newcastle Uni, had put into getting so many of our, small number of graduates at that stage, but also the network of students, international guests, just a whole bunch of people that were passionate and excited and just really wanted an opportunity to be able to come together. That was Salamander Bay. It wasn't AIDA because we didn't know there was an AIDA.
We sort of got together and thought we had a great idea, and it's been amazing to see how things have grown.
The two main aims were to provide collegiate support to other Indigenous graduates and undergraduates in medicine, and the second aim was to provide us a source of role models to encourage young Indigenous Australians in their pursuit of higher learning, not necessarily medicine.
One of the things we were really clear about was trying to make sure we weren't just a bunch of uptown black doctors. That was really important to the first board, and part of that was part of our aim and remit was staying relevant to our communities and to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander health, utilising our qualifications for good and not evil.
This isn't just about, Aboriginal doctors, really. This is about the very empowerment of our communities. To quote or paraphrase a good mate of mine, Professor Peter O'Mara, the practice of Aboriginal medicine is good medicine for everyone.
As an Aboriginal doctor, I'll often get talked to about cultural healing and traditional healers and spiritual things that happen in people's lives that they say, I wouldn't share this with another doctor because they'd probably lock me up.
So that was advocacy work, it was teaching, it was politics, it was policy, and just, being pulled in 1,000 different directions as we all are. And when we put that to the Commonwealth in terms of what we thought AIDA could be, they said, well, isn't that a bit ambitious? And so our first response was, well, there's nothing wrong with ambition. And two, we said, we're already doing these things.
We were very intent on having policy products, if you like. We had any number of reviews and policy strategies. Organisations, funders, governments were coming to us to do that policy work because they had trust in AIDA
It was certainly a place where the bigger decisions were made, and other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peak bodies were. We were hoping that we would be able to bolster and strengthen one another from an organisational perspective. Ian Anderson had a senior job with health, for example, and he was instrumental in making sure we were able to negotiate conversations with the right people, and he was supportive.
I think there are two aspects about partnerships which have been really important. The first one is making sure that we had a partnership with our own communities, and that the organisation, being an Indigenous organisation, actually reflected the needs of the community and what was happening on the ground. The other form of partnership which has been really important was external partnerships with a whole bunch of organisations and medical schools and specialist training colleges to really achieve those core values about what we stand for as Indigenous doctors.
Starting with our partnership with the medical deans or MDANs, having a strong partnership there so we can understand what's happening in the university sector, as well as, provide some really good feedback and hopefully solutions around how to better recruit, retain and support and graduate our doctors.
AIDA conferences are so important in my view because it is a time where in a physical, a spiritual, a kind of clinical, a professional space, a whole body of understanding emerges. But equally and as importantly, we invite whitefellas into this space, and they're the advocates that then go back into their institutions to try to change the conversations, change the narrative and drive change within.
It's always been an important and valuable concept for the organisation to bring traditional healers to our conferences and acknowledge that as a part of our culture. And I think it is a real eye-opener for non-Indigenous people to see that that is valued within our system still.
We are cousins and brothers and sisters to our Indigenous mob across the global community of Indigenous people. And that came together beautifully in what constitutes PRIDOC, the Pacific Region's Indigenous Doctors Congress. So through that association, the collective and the common experiences of people who had been colonised and continue through that colonisation process was so important.
AIDA's really been, they kind of have organised the PRIDOC Council retreats, which is a really important time for leadership to kind of check in with each other. Where are we each individually as organizations, but also how can we support each other?
Our challenge is around our sustainability in one respect, but also growing and responding to the needs of our members. It's a good challenge to have, how to respond and to better meet the needs of all of our members across the whole medical continuum.
I think a challenge moving forward is ensuring that we are developing an Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander health workforce that really reflects community need on the ground.
We've got mob from all over the country, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander nations. So the challenge is about having a peak organisation that remains responsive, reflective and acts on member needs, and also for the membership to be involved in supporting the peak organisation.
In Australia, currently we've got parity in terms of students entering medicine, but we don't have that with students graduating at the end of the day. I think the challenges for us in the future are, is tackling that institutionalised racism, developing culturally safe hospitals, which will have better outcomes, not only in terms of us, in terms of our students graduating and building capacity for the number of Aboriginal doctors, but also in terms of outcomes for Aboriginal patients.
The future for Indigenous doctors and for AIDA is only looking bright, and it must look bright. We have an obligation to organise as Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander doctor workforce, because we still don't have enough of us to do the work required to lead health advancement for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people.
I'd like to see some sort of trust fund set up where we could provide our own scholarships.
We've got amazing doctors who I think are just making huge contributions in spite of the small numbers of our doctors. And if we grow that number, then it should be normal for us to be able to see our doctors up there as leaders in their fields, but also for us to be able to go in a community.
Indigenous doctors and AIDA have an enormous amount to contribute to the mainstream health system, both now and well into the future.
When I was with my daughter on a Zoom meeting and I was all after doctors and we're about to do a panel together, so we were doing workshopping what kind of questions we're going to answer. And my daughter came beside me and said, who are these people? I said, these are all Koori doctors, sis. And she just smiled at me and goes, yeah, aren't all Koori doctors?
Happy 25 years anniversary, AIDA. I had no idea you'd grow up to be this big and strong, but we're proud of you.
It's been extraordinary thus far, and I don't see it ending anytime soon. And it's been a real privilege and an honour to be part of the journey.
Oh, happy anniversary, AIDA. Happy 25th. Looking forward to the next 25 years. Let's bring it on and challenge that future.
Hau'oli now, AIDA. I'm so proud and happy for you to celebrate your 25th anniversary.
And so everybody, happy Silver Jubilee. 25 years, we've achieved a lot of things. Let's watch the influence that the members have continue to grow, and let's see the way that we just transform our profession and transform the world around us.